things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DiPrima go way back. Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DiPrima. Go sis.
First things first.
Morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DiPrima. The show is called First Things First. My very first thing today and every day, giving thanks, giving praises, and asking for blessings from God, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and moving this train. Let's go, let's go, let's go. We got a lot to talk about. I'm Dominique DiPrima. I think you know how this goes, but if you're new to the KBLA delegation, welcome aboard, get you a name tag, and let's get it started. Hour one, we usually look to the left coast, what's going on this side, the Pacific side of things. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive with a person or persons of interest. Today, we're pretty much on that pattern. We got a lot of folks to join us today. Our Wealth Building Wednesday spotlight should be a perennial favorite, so you'll want to stick around for that. Something not only just learning about a BIPOC-owned business, but also some kind of a big shift in the community that you're going to want to know about. That's all I'm going to say. You're just going to have to rock with me to find out more. In the third hour, we're going to take a look at, trans rights and trans issues with Amara Jones, who is an award-winning author, podcaster, and much, much more. And joining me now in the studio for our first hour, it's been a minute. He is a political consultant. He's worked on many a campaign. He spent the first part of his career as a staffer for elected officials and labor organizations, so he knows a thing or two about a thing or two. Shannon Lawrence, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dominique. I'm so happy to be here.
Great to see you. I know you're always working hard, so it's great to have you in studio. Like your shirt, for those of you on YouTube, you can see it at youtube.com, KBLA 1580. It says, elect good people.
That's right.
Easier said than done, right?
It is, but, I think, one of the things that you often hear people say is, what is your message to the world? And I think right now in this season that we're in, that's my message to the world, is to be conscious about who we're electing and making sure that they're good people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to really, really, really know people. And I'm interested in your insights. Many Democrats endorsed, for example, Alex Villanueva, right?
Yeah.
This is an example of people being literally fooled because he presented as a Democrat, he presented as one thing, and then when he got into office, his persona and his moves, I guess you could say, were very much out of the MAGA playbook. So, I mean, how do we do a better job in vetting electeds so that we know what we're getting?
Well, I think, just speaking on the Villanueva situation, I think one of the things that that I think happened is that I think that there was an expectation of Jackie Lacey that for whatever reason, the expectation was that she would be something. And so I think the election of Villanueva was really a visceral response to a disappointment, whether it was legitimate or perception, right? And so
You're talking about in the performance of Jackie Lacey versus the persona.
yes,
I mean, honestly, that was a good example because she, and this is me speaking for me, not me speaking for you, but she came on my show. It was Front Page back then, and asked for our votes as a Black community, and then we never heard from her again until it was time for re-election. So,
well, I share the same sentiment.
yeah, I mean, and so I never connected the dots with that, but I mean, the guy actually just really presented himself as something other than what he is or was. And he's running now for Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, and I think we should see it for exactly what it is. I mean, I think like in most cases that we're seeing on the Republican side right now, they've shown us who they are. And it doesn't really matter what coding they put on what they present, but they are who they are. And I think we should believe them.
Yeah. Does he admit to being a Republican now? I'm not sure. But in any case, he's running, I think, against Janice Hahn, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
and that's a revenge move. Does he really want to be supervisor? I don't know. Does he want to be empowered? Probably so. Does he want to get back at Janice Hahn? Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Board of Supervisors during his tenure, I mean, that they oversee the sheriff, but they were like his nemesis. It was Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner.
Yeah, and I think Janice Hahn was probably the main person out there, and so he sees her as public enemy number one.
Interesting. It is election season, believe it or not. I got my holiday festive thing going on. Me and Shannon, we match.
That's right.
If you want, you have to go to YouTube to see that. But so it doesn't feel like election season, but it really is because March 3rd will be here in a minute and a half. Those early voting, the paper ballots come out in February, beginning of February, actually.
Yeah, around February 6th.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, the beauty of it is that, we have a 21-day GOTV cycle now. And so with that...
Get out the vote.
So with that, there's plenty of time for people to make their final decisions, to really vet the candidates, to really determine who they want, and really begin to vote their values instead of trying to figure it out in 4 days.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a good way of looking at it because it seems to me like by the time we finish cleaning up from the holidays, it'll be time to vote. But we do have that long window from February 6th, I guess, to
March 5th.
March 5th, so it's almost a month. That should be enough time. I feel like sometimes it's hard with obscure, I shouldn't say obscure, with less races that get less attention, like judges, and also with propositions which are oftentimes written intentionally confusing.
That's right. And there are a number of them on the ballot for this year. I'm not an expert in them yet because there's still
exactly.
A lot of them are
Me
still
neither, by the way.
finalized. But I can assure you that before the election happens, I'm going to definitely be well versed to see what the voters have say so over when it comes down to how we legislate ourselves.
Yeah, we usually stick local when in this hour, but we have to at least touch on that Colorado court decision saying that Mr. Drumpf cannot be on the ballot.
Yeah.
Because he tried to overthrow the government, basically. I mean, it's 14th Amendment, which was meant to keep Confederates off the ballot. And for me, it would be, if that holds up, which I don't know if it will, because it may go all the way to the Supreme Court, right? If it holds up, it would be doing exactly what it was meant to do because it would be keeping a Confederate off the ballot.
Yeah, and shout out to Colorado for having the courage.
Yeah, right.
To do that. I know here in California, I know there was some talk, and I believe it's still happened where one of the requirements to be on the ballot for president was that you have to turn in your tax returns. I don't know if that has been tested yet, but I think that states that truly, I'm not saying that they don't, but states that have shown that they really care about our democracy, they're doing the things in place to put those safeguards in place to make sure that we don't have another situation like we had on January 6th. And so, taking those kind of preventative measures, I think, or at the very least, just testing the will of the American people and testing the courts to really see the strength of our Constitution and the strength of our laws, I think is admirable, and I think it should be applauded and buckle up and see where this goes, because I think it's going to end up in the Supreme Court.
I mean, of course, he's already fundraising off it. So some people are saying this will be, LA Times included. There's an article saying this is a plus for the former president, that he'll be able to, whine and cry and play victim all the way to victory.
Yeah, and
because he doesn't need Colorado. To be clear, he lost it by a
Right.
lot in the last election, and he's not counting on it to win anyway, right?
Right, and at the same time, I think it also says a lot about the courage of the current Republican field, the fact that they're not willing to actually speak out against this guy.
Yeah.
Chris Christie's the only one, and I'm not saying that any of them would be good for us, but what I am saying is that when it comes down to vetting the best that they have to offer, they're not willing to stand up to the bully, and that's a shame. And I think it says a lot about how they would actually lead if they do get the number one spot in this country. Because how would you stand up against a Putin? How would you stand up against any of these other?
Yeah, well, we have kind of seen that in the short
Right.
term, but so even again, if it held up, which I doubt, because we have that extreme court, the MAGA Supreme Court. But if it did, it wouldn't necessarily hurt him because he doesn't need Colorado. Same with California, right? If we kept him off the ballot, and he can come here in California and cry to his friends in Orange County and get checks. But what it could do maybe is create momentum for some other states that he does need, right? Like Ohio and places like that, to consider keeping him off the ballot if the political will was there.
And let's hope it is. I think you're absolutely correct. And I do think that for a lot of those folks that will be challenged with having to make those tough decisions, being able to stand behind precedent, I think will give them both the courage and also the shield to be able to do that. So
I just like watching it, because all of these things are things I've never seen before in my lifetime. And this is an extreme criminal who needs extreme measures to try to reel him in, even if it does create sympathy for him. I mean, but the people that are sympathizing with him are not new voters. I think they're the same hardcore base that he's always had. So I don't know that, more sympathy from those folks shifts the equation. Does it?
No, it doesn't. I think you're right. It is the same people. It's going to be in those same states. And what Black folk have shown is that black when Georgia flipped purple,
Yeah.
it showed what's possible when our community actually pays attention, gets engaged, and gets involved. And I don't believe that what happened in Georgia was an anomaly. I think that it can happen all over, but I do think it takes intent and deliberate action and organizing in those places in order to make that happen.
Could happen in Florida?
Maybe it does.
Yeah.
I think gosh, Florida is such a man. It's
kind of a paradox. I mean, it's like a huge paradox to me, because you do have a lot of Haitians, you have a lot of Latinos, although many of them could be, conservative Cubans and Venezuelans. You have a lot of low-income black folks, Black Americans,
yeah.
who are heavily disenfranchised there. Anyway, it's the beginning of what's going to be a wild ride. It seems, this election.
Yeah, but I also think that it's the beginning of a changing of the guard in how we think about politics and how we think about how we govern ourselves in this country. I think one of the things that we don't talk often enough about is that every year there's a new crop of 18-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
There's a new crop of voters that have new ideas and new ideals in terms of how they see this country, how they see the world, how they see this country functioning in the world, and how they see themselves being a contributor to either the progress or regression of it, right? And so I think with that, I think one of the things that we have to do is not be afraid of these conversations around politics, have them early with our kids, have them often with our kids, because when they step in, it's no different than when you give a kid a driver's license, right? We have to do driver training, and you have to do driver's ed. You have to prepare them before they get on the road. And in too many cases, we're allowing future generations to just turn 18, and then we hand them a ballot, say, hey, vote. It's like, but we haven't really prepared them.
Yeah, my poor child has been going with me to vote since they were a baby.
Oh, me too.
A little tiny baby.
Me too.
But yeah, well, there's a bombshell report in the LA Times about the LAPD allegedly investigating Mayor Karen Bass after she was elected. Talk about that when we come forward. Shannon Lawrence, Dominique DiPrima, KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
This week at Target, get all your holiday shopping done with last-minute deals on must-haves and wants for the season. Discover big deals on toys and tech, plus top deals on clothing, beauty gift sets, and so much more. At Target, find all you need for the holidays. Shop great last-minute deals everyone will love, and get what you need fast with free drive-up. Hurry! Last-minute deals end Sunday. Score low prices and great last-minute deals now at Target. Exclusions apply.
This holiday season, Capital One reminds you to give yourself the gift of 1.5% cash back with the Capital One Quicksilver Card.
Can I earn 1.5% cash back on birds?
Birds?
What if you sent your true love 2 turtle doves plus a partridge in a pear tree?
Sure, but why would anyone want that?
The song was very convincing.
Earn 1.5% cash back on all your holiday purchases with the Capital One Quicksilver Card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Imagine dreaming you had one chance to write a song that all the world would sing, and your dreams came true. Now imagine experiencing a life-altering health challenge with mounting medical bills that your share of royalties from that hit song can barely cover. The year? 1970. The songwriter? Nadine McKinnon. The recording artist? Donny Hathaway. The song?
Hang all the mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better. This Christmas.
A match made in heaven. Nadine McKinnon and Donny Hathaway. To date, over 300 artists have covered This Christmas. Unfortunately, because of industry practices and standards in the early 70s, Nadine McKinnon failed to protect her interests and did not benefit financially to the extent she should have. As we know, history is littered with countless untold stories of the accomplishments of hidden black female figures. For over 50 years now, we've been inspired by this heartfelt Christmas classic. Due to a sudden debilitating stroke, Nadine McKinnon is in need of our help to assist with massive medical bills not covered by our insurance. Please show your love to this inspirational woman and writer of our beloved classic. And this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for you and Nadine. Please contribute as your heart leads you. All donations are welcome. Go right now to the GoFundMe page for Nadine Scott McKinnon or head to the KBLA 1580 website. On behalf of KBLA Talk 1580, thank you in advance for doing your part to honor a true songwriting legend.
And this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me.
Merry Christmas.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, you are invited in at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. I'm going to remind you every day while I'm on the mic, because we only have until December 31st of 2023 to go on and take that reparations survey for the Los Angeles City Reparations Advisory Task Force. Go to blackexperiencela.com and, just plan about 20, 30 minutes to go through all these questions. It's actually quite fascinating, and they need more of us to participate. Shannon Lawrence is with us. He has worked on many a campaign. He's witnessed a lot of people running for office who, he says, good-hearted people who run for office and lose, walk away wondering what happened. So that's kind of what you do. You consult people. If people are thinking of running and they want to engage your services, what would they do?
Go to my website, www.inkwellcg.com. or feel free to call me, 310-870-7550.
Okay, so yeah, because I know it's true. People run and they think that they have. My brother is currently the mayor of Newark, but he ran at least 2 or 3 times before he won.
Yeah, and that's what happens a lot of times. I think elections really is about consistency, because I think there's some components in campaigns that we often don't think about, especially for candidates, right? They think, well, I'm popular amongst my 30 to 50 friends, and that's enough. And it is enough if you're running for student council president, but you're running to serve the general public, right? And so I think you have to give space for the public to get to know you, to get to learn to trust you. But also there's a reality that, in the words of Jess Unruh, money is a mother's milk in politics. And so you have to raise money. I don't care how good intentioned you are. It takes money to win. And I know that's a whole nother debate about whether or not it should or it shouldn't. But the reality is that, if you didn't get a mailer or a phone call or see a billboard, you wouldn't know that person's on the ballot, and all of that takes money.
Yeah, it does, and I think in California more money than most places, right? Because we're as big as many nations.
Yeah, and there's so many competing interests here. I mean, you're competing with other candidates, you're competing with the business community, you're competing with billionaires who are taking out independent expenditures to oppose maybe what you believe in. I mean, there's so many competing interests that you have to be able to get your message above the fray.
So the LA Times is reporting that 2 detectives in Internal Affairs Division of the Los Angeles Police Department were ordered by Chief Michael Moore to investigate Mayor Karen Bass after she was elected. They claim that this was in January. That after she was elected, when they were asked to look into a scholarship she received from USC, which was, already an issue in the campaign, which then Congresswoman Bass had pre-approved by the Ethics Committee of Congress. And I don't know what else you can do. If I'm an elected official and I want to make a move and I go to the Ethics Committee and I say, can I do this? And they say yes. To me, that's a green light. It was a talking point in the mayoral race. Rick Caruso, who was the main opponent of Mayor Bass, the billionaire, of course, blasting her. They had these horrifying commercials that tried to make it seem like she was corrupt, but she won anyway by a lot, despite him putting in literally tens of millions of dollars. But this is a suspicious story anyway for 2 reasons. Number one, at that time, Moore was waiting to see if he would be reappointed by the mayor for another 5-year term, which is something many in the community, myself included, did not wish to see happen. And the other reason is because the Los Angeles Police Department Association, their union or cartel, spent millions of dollars to try to defeat the mayor. And so even though Chief Moore is denying this, he's saying he never ordered that, he never heard of it, he never talked to anybody about it. But what's he going to say? Yeah, I did it. Even though he's denying it, it kind of tracks for me, just because it's in alignment with what the union for the LAPD was advocating for up until she was elected.
Yeah. Well, just remember, the chief is also not a member of the union. So
technically, right?
Well, no, not technically, nor actually. He's considered management, and so he's not a member of the LA Police Protective League. Matter of fact, they often are in opposition.
Right, when you become chief. So the rest of his career, he was, and he knows all those folks, and
Right. And
to me, if the LAPD is taking a position, they don't want Bass for mayor, whether he's in the union or not. I see what you're saying. They can be in opposition because they're negotiating whatever salaries, contracts, etc.
Yeah, but I'll in reading the article, one of the things that sticks out to me is I think Karen Bass's class and grace in all of it, and the fact that Mayor Karen Bass's class and grace, and the fact that she didn't respond. She doubles down on her position that she's focused on reducing crime, and I also think that allegations are allegations, and I think that it's the LA Times job, quote unquote, to report the news, but I also think that sometimes just to create space that they print articles that are nothing articles.
I mean, that could be. There is a formal complaint. I mean, they did investigate. There was a complaint filed, although like I said, Moore's denying it. And you're right, Karen Bass, Madam Mayor, is saying like, this is a distraction. Why are we focusing on this?
Right. And I do think that and I think that's important when it comes down to leadership, frankly, is to be able to say, thank you so much for your opinion. I'm focused on making sure that we have safe streets. And
yeah, I mean, I agree, but at the same time, it's a similar. What is she going to say? Oh, right. Yeah, that doggone police chief that I reappointed and have to work with every day. Yeah, he was trying to stab me in the back. Yeah, she's not. No mayor, not even the dumbest mayor, is going to say that.
Well, I know one mayor that might on the East Coast that's no longer mayor, but that's another story for another day.
Oh well, yeah, maybe one that is still mayor. I mean, I don't know what ain't no telling what Eric Adams would do. But yeah, that's a good point. You never know. But I understand what you're saying. It's a non-story because the mayor is squashing it, and there's no smoking gun other than the complaints filed by these two detectives.
Yeah.
But it, for me, it tracks.
Yeah. No, I see your point. I'm not saying that it didn't happen, but I don't think there's enough there to say that it did also.
Got you. All right, we've got news, traffic, and sports, and then continuing the conversation only on KBLA Talk 1580.
We wish you a holiday season filled with peace and love and a new year rich with blessings. Mask up and stay safe. From all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
People making lists, buying special gifts.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A group of voting rights advocates filed a lawsuit against the state of North Carolina yesterday, challenging all of the election maps for 2024. The suit, filed by the NAACP Common Cause and 8 residents, claims the Republican-drawn maps were reconfigured to intentionally dilute black voter strength. Donald Trump is denying that he quoted Hitler at a recent rally. The former president on Saturday spoke at a rally in New Hampshire and claimed immigrants were poisoning the blood of our country. The remark was similar to language used by Adolf Hitler in his book Mein Kampf to describe the mixing of races. Tuesday, Trump spoke at a rally in Iowa and defended his comments. He told his supporters he'd never read that and that Hitler's language was much different. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Don't miss out on new deals every day at Lowe's. Get up to 30% off plus save an extra $750 on select major appliances. Valid through 12/20. Appliance savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. While supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC's men's basketball team snapped a 3-game losing streak with a 20-point win Tuesday night at Alabama State. Bronny James scored all 6 of his points in the second half in his third game with the Trojans. He dropped 2 3-pointers. LeBron's son is still on a minutes restriction and continues to come off the bench. The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight. The struggling Lakers start a 3-game road trip tonight in Chicago. The Lakers are 1-3 since winning the in-season tournament. 5 p.m. tip-off in Chicago. The Clippers are in Dallas with their 8-game winning streak. During the streak, Kawhi Leonard is averaging 29.3 points and shooting 54% from the floor. Perhaps the most important stat for Kawhi is that he has played in all 26 of the Clippers games this season. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's the gift-giving season, and we have a gift for you. Visit us online at KBLA.store for holiday savings of 20% off all of our KBLA swag. For the best in merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store right now. And be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all our official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580, at 20% off, but only during the holiday season. Happy holidays.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! There are many things to love about winter. Cozy sweaters, celebrations, and family time. But winter can also bring many stressors, extra expenses, seasonal bugs, and so much family time. If you and your loved ones are feeling stressed or anxious this winter, CalHope can help. Check out our free mental health resource at calhope.org today.
A psoriasis flare-up can make a walk in the park, well, no walk in the park.
It's that obvious, huh? I've tried so many lotions and creams, but I still have symptoms.
So those don't do enough to treat the inflammation beneath the skin, leaving you with those uncontrolled symptoms.
Makes sense, but what else can I do?
You can get real with your dermatologist so they can help you get clear. Make an appointment and, oh, you're already on it.
Hi, yes, I'd like to make an appointment.
Get real clear about psoriasis at letsgetrealclear.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZQuil.
ZQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZQuil nights. Explore our products at ZQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
It is so fun to have Shannon Lawrence here because he is an actual campaign consultant and a staffer, many times back in the day, a campaign staffer or an actual staffer in political offices. So you know a lot of things and, behind the scenes kind of look at how things go down. So, water is a big issue in the state of California. We have that issue worldwide. I think it's something that we'll be hearing a lot more about in the decades ahead, right? Water is the new oil, is what some folks say. Now, California has approved the use of recycled wastewater, meaning toilet water coming out of your faucet statewide. And I think even though this is considered safe and a lot of places do it already, I know like out in the Inland Empire they do it, the issue is going to be perception.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a huge hurdle for folks to get over. You have to disclose it. I don't know if that's in the rule or not, but I think just for good ethical government, you should disclose that it is recycled water or some sort of retreated water, however way they market it. But I think you do have to let people know now. And then I think you also are going to have to, and then people are going to have to be okay with the fact that we live in a world now where this has to happen. And we can argue back and forth of whether or not it has to, but until we have other technologies or we figure out a way to actually create water, then this is the solution.
I mean, so California is the second state to do this. It's the Water Resources Control Board that made this approval actually this week, that they can use basically toilet water. Sewer water can be used now for drinking, to come out of your tap, for cooking, for bathing. And it does say the rules require the agencies to let customers know. But once they let you know, we will never be able to determine when it's wastewater coming out of our faucets and when it's water from the Colorado River. We won't be able to discern the difference, right?
Probably not, unless But I will say this: I do think that there has been so much investment into water technology that the reality is that do we really know what we're getting in everything else anyway? I mean, like, do we really know that
Right
that
now.
bottled water is what they say it is? I mean, not unless. I mean, think about this: we've seen corporations fool the people for years until someone brings a lawsuit and all of a sudden, oh, well, it's not what it says it is, right? And so
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but usually I believe if they say it's spring water, it's a little easier to test if it's really spring water.
yeah, but we don't know if it's spring from Colorado Springs or Spring Street either. So
Yeah, well, the water I buy tells you what spring it's coming from, okay? But and you can taste it, but I think that point about water is very salient because there are some brands, like Aquafina, I'm going to name it, that it's just a reverse osmosis and they don't tell you where the water came from. It could be toilet water. That's the Coca-Cola brand of water.
right.
And so to me, you got to look and see what the bottle says. If it tells you where it's from, if it's purified, and you're right, they could be lying. All the holistic people that I know say go with spring.
Right.
Because it does have natural minerals and it's more alive.
Right. Or alkaline, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure all of them don't say toilet water.
No. Or no.
I'm pretty sure there's no holistic practitioner anywhere who's saying, toilet water.
There's some genius marketer right now who's who's coming up with the toilet water brand water.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, but I do think that. I mean, but I will say that. To go back to my previous point, I do think that. Like, I think about the investments that we've done at Hyperion in the city of Los Angeles, being able to really treat the water in a way to where it is safe and it is sustainable and it is good for people to be able to use, to drink, or to use it any other way. Those technology, we're continuing to invest in the technologies to advance our sustainability options. And so, although on a surface level, it sounds very daunting and it sounds nasty and it sounds unhealthy. I trust science to a large extent, and I trust that I trust our government is not going to allow it to happen unless the proper research and the proper vetting has happened.
The trust the government part is a little shaky over here. I mean, because you think about Flint, right?
Yeah.
You think about Jackson, Mississippi, and it kind of, I don't know about trust the government part. I do think, science is very advanced, although I've been reading about how even in regular water that's not toilet water or wastewater, I guess is the proper term, there are traces of pharmaceuticals because people, flush their pills down the toilet and it gets into the water and they don't know how to clean it out yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that in their quest to learn how to remove pharmaceuticals from our water, we'll get to the point where even the wastewater is very, very clean.
It may actually end up being cleaner than coming directly from the springs. And let's not forget, California is still the leader when it comes down to science and technology in this country, like really leading the world. I mean, we have more advancements and studies that are happening here than any place else in the country. And so it makes sense for it to happen here. It makes sense for us to be the leader in that. And so I think it's on brand with just kind of who we are as California.
Yeah. Okay. I can't control it, so I have to go with it for now. But for me, it does seem really nasty.
Yeah.
And I know you're right. If people started getting sick or something, there would be massive lawsuits. So I'm sure it's been well vetted. I've actually, through conversations with my friends in the group called Groundswell, which works on water policy, water justice, they have assured me that this wastewater is safe, but my mind is not there yet.
Yeah, and I think Groundswell is doing an awesome job with. I really wish more people knew about Groundswell and would look them up because they're doing a lot of work around water advocacy and not just water in general, but making sure that our communities in particular are receiving the environmental justice, and particularly when it comes down to water. when it comes down to advocating for good public policy around water, when it comes down to making sure that our communities are not taken for granted or taken advantage of. And so, shout out to Groundswell. Thank you for bringing them up, because I do think that that the more of us that are really talking about it and talking about it in our communities, I think it just gives them more power, and it gives them the ability to keep our water officials more accountable to making sure that those cracks are not penetrated and that our communities are taken care of.
It's a great point, because a lot of us don't even pay attention to water officials. Water officials, what's that? Even though it's on the ballot or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's crucial. And as we talked about this last week, it's like I didn't even realize the connection between water supply and housing. You cannot build housing if you don't have water for those folks that are about to move there. And in a state that is suffering from, a terrible housing emergency, that is super relevant. And where that water flows decides who is eligible to build more housing.
Yeah, gosh, the housing conversation and where people are going to live. That's yeah. And it's not just, to me, it's really being, that's the fact that is a requirement. I think it shows a tremendous amount of responsibility and accountability, but more than anything else, to your point, I think we have to also pay attention as to how those waterways underground are being made, who's making them. Because just to kind of switch a little bit, I do think that one of the things that we don't talk about enough is, even when it comes down to infrastructure, it's not just having an infrastructure, but there are careers in infrastructure that a lot of our communities are not being able to take advantage of because we just don't know that they exist. And so it's a whole ecosystem around this that I think is worth exploring and discussing at some point. Yeah. And at a certain point, it's going to become front and center, whether we track it or not, because you can't live without water. Shannon Lawrence is here with me. You're welcome to call in 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. We are unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
This open enrollment season, LA Care Covered is offering health plans starting at $0 a month. Each plan provides benefits including $0 preventive services, 24/7 telehealth services, around-the-clock nurse advice lines, walk-in minute clinics, and more. Shop and compare premium silver plans with $0 deductibles to help meet your health goals. Ready to shop? Visit us online at lacarecovered.org for a commitment-free instant quote, or speak with us directly at 855-222-4239. LA Care Covered, your affordable path to wellness.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
A heads up before something bad happens.
You should not send that text.
Uh-oh. Life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can reverse prediabetes and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
When you're young, life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. Today I spoke with Tatiana, a community manager for JP Morgan Chase.
Thank you so much. Yes, my name is Tatiana Roberts. I am a community manager for JP Morgan Chase. I have to honestly say that this has been the most fulfilling position that I've ever had, where I get to give back to the community because I saw my mom's struggles. That's really what fuels what I do to make sure that that the community has all the access to the resources that my mother didn't have.
So for the mother who's in business, what are 3 quick tips you can give to ensure that they're on the right path to accessing financial support from a bank like Chase?
Say number 1, just make sure that you're checking your credit on a consistent basis and taking action to either fix your credit, maintain your credit, or rebuild your credit. The second thing would be budget. I know that B word is kind of like ugly for, right? A lot of people don't like that B word, but it has to be done. We need to tell our money where to go. The last thing is to build a network of supporters that are going to lift you up.
The community building here in Crenshaw is that network. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, the conversation about people moving out of California is something that's been ongoing. I remember having a rather heated debate with someone from Texas who was making the case that California is worse than Texas because people from here are moving there, including Elon Musk. And today's LA Times, there's a story about how Californians, now the ones leaving, prior it was always the lower income folks leaving because they couldn't afford housing or whatever. Now the LA Times article says that it's the middle class and the wealthy that are leaving. So, I mean, they cite a bunch of different reasons, housing cost. I believe my personal observation is that has a lot to do with the remote working, because when a Facebook or a Airbnb moves their headquarters or shrinks their headquarters and allows people to work from home, those folks with the higher salaries, I can get more for my money in Colorado or whatever. Texas apparently is a destination of choice, and also Florida. So where I sit, I think that's exacerbated by the pandemic. But what they're saying is it's a problem for our tax base because California does tax the rich, and if we have fewer rich and upper middle class folks, then our tax base shrinks. We're looking at a deficit this year.
Yeah, but also, I mean, when we look at how our budget happens in the state of California anyway, it ebbs and flows. I mean,
right, always.
So it's not uncommon to have a surplus one year, deficit the next year, surplus the next year. That's maybe steady for a couple of years, but that's not uncommon. I do think, to your point, and I agree that the pandemic certainly exacerbated a lot of this. But let's be clear. A lot of these folks, when they move, they realize I can't move back. And so...
Right, because they don't have... if they're rich, they can. But if they're middle class, what are you going to... Right. And your housing.
But the other part that I think we have to remember is that, California is still California. And, I saw I think it was on social media. I was talking to a friend of mine about it, and it said, if you're from California and you leave California, and I'm summarizing it, and then you realize that, I really like California, right? because there's so much to offer here. I mean, we get sunshine 300 days out the year at the very minimum. Weather is pretty mild. There's plenty of job opportunities. Our education system is the best in the nation, which is why people come from all over. Well, people come from all over the world in order to get educated here, whether we think so or not.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but okay. I mean, the reason I say that is because I know we don't invest at the levels that some other states do.
Yeah, we don't.
And also, when you talk to people from the East Coast, they think we're dumb. That, not dumb, but like undereducated. I know that. But in any case, I love California. Yeah. I'm not going to argue that. I believe a lot of them are going to move back. I do. I think they're going to find a way, but we'll see.
They're going to move to Bakersfield.
Because guess what? Yeah, well, whatever. Or whatever they do. Because honestly, when you move to Texas, you have to live in Texas.
It is still Texas.
When you move to Florida, you get Ron DeSantis or whatever Florida man they come up with next as your governor. And after a while, I think, especially if we see, Trump 2.0, at a certain point, it becomes intolerable to live with those policies.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
Policies and attitudes.
Because I think...
Because you want them to stay gone?
Yes. Yes.
Peace out. We won't miss you. Really?
No. Well, you talking about Trump?
No. You're talking about the second. I thought you meant let's hope they won't move back to California.
No.
Let's hope Trump doesn't get reelected. Yeah.
No. I think... Well, and I do think that they will want to come back. I don't know where they're going to go. because I mean, it's so difficult to find. I think we're just in a. We got to find some real solutions here.
Well, if people keep leaving and we keep building housing, then eventually it won't be as expensive.
But
that's 10 years off probably.
Yeah. But they're leaving places that we just can't move into anymore. I mean, I think the fact that in this state right now, in order to be considered like base, and I forgot the actual term, it's escaping me right now, but minimum wage needs to be at like over $30 in order to just be able to afford a 1-bedroom apartment, right? And we just now are bumping our minimum wage up to $16 an hour in the state come January 1. I mean, and $20 for fast food workers. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to happen. And so they're even though they're moving out, they're not leaving homes that regular people could actually just move into.
Right, because those are 75K is a low end. I think they said now it's up to like 127. Right. You're the average person that's moving out, which is about what you need to even, live comfortably. Yeah, you're right. It's a conundrum. But I do think that California is California, and Florida ain't California, and neither is Nevada. No shade, Miles, but a lot of people are moving to Vegas. I saw so many people, LA people in Vegas when I was visiting. It was just incredible.
Yeah, my mom moved to Vegas. She lives in Vegas, and so and
she's not coming back.
Maybe it depends. But but the housing prices have skyrocketed in Las Vegas right now.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with Atlanta. Everybody wanted to move to Atlanta because it was cheaper. It's not really cheaper anymore.
Not unless you move way out. I mean,
I'm talking about Atlanta proper.
Right. Yeah. No, it's unaffordable. Mm-hmm. It really is, and we see that everywhere. And I think it speaks to a bigger question also when it comes down to how our economy is treating Black folk in particular, right? In terms of, are we able to really participate in this economy, to be able to buy homes, to be able to become business owners, to just participate in a way other than just being a consumer and a barely living person.
I mean, I think that is right, but I also think it's a question about the working class.
True.
Because if the working class cannot afford to live in the cities where their jobs are, that's not sustainable.
Right.
That's not sustainable with, with a climate emergency, with gas prices. It is not sustainable when it comes to our mental wellness and well-being. And it becomes a model where the gap between rich and poor, or even middle class and working class, is so broad that it could topple our whole system, could topple our whole country.
Yeah.
I believe it will if we keep going the way we are.
I agree. I totally agree. And I don't know if I know the solution right now.
Well, the solution is we got to pay the workers better. That's the solution. We cannot be slaves to, or because I'm not a CEO, but if I was, well, I am CEO, but I don't have any employees. We can't be slaves to just, investor returns.
True.
We have to have a non-predatory, what Julianne Malveaux calls predatory capitalism. We got to move away from that model. If your business model depends on starving workers, then you need to redo your business model. It's not a valid paradigm. You can't create a company who can only succeed if you squeeze blood out of your workers. That's not a sustainable model.
I agree. I totally agree. That's also why we're also starting to see this movement towards unionism in this country as well.
Absolutely.
Is because I think working people are realizing that, depending on the good faith and trust of large corporations is not going to be in their best interest. Even when you saw what happened with Starbucks in terms of they're being forced to reopen a lot of those stores that they closed. A few of them here in Los Angeles. And, and I say...
Right, they were making excuses saying it was traffic or this or that, but it was really because they were trying to shut down union activism.
Absolutely. You see that happen in Alabama. They tried to, even with Amazon, tried to organize a plant in North Alabama, and they fired the guy, but now he works for the union, and they're still organizing it. So I do think you're going to start seeing this massive shift towards organizing, but more than anything else, the thing that I'm encouraged by is even if they don't join a union, it's this idea that workers are beginning to realize that I have rights and I should be able to have work-life balance, and not my work-life balance be centered around the CEO's level of comfort and their ability to be able to take vacations in Monaco.
Right? And I would think that wise CEOs, wise billionaires, if you will, why do you need 100 billion? Wouldn't 50 do? Wouldn't 25? You're not going to spend that in your lifetime. Would begin to realize that if they want this society as we have it now to continue, they're going to have to stop being so darn greedy. I mean, it sounds overly simplistic, but it really isn't. Stop price gouging. Right? And stop underpaying workers, because otherwise you're going to go the way of, France and other other empires who crumbled.
Yeah. I think, yes, you're absolutely correct. And I think also that the challenge is that, we as a culture in America, we value wealth. We see wealth and we equate it to power and intelligence. And
right,
that's
which is why dumb people vote for Trump. But look, there's wealth and then there's wealth.
Right.
There's wealth and then there's you can never spend it in your whole lifetime. Why are you still gouging workers? Shannon Lawrence, it is always a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for coming back. It's been a minute. All right.
Thank you so much.
And we continue. It's a Wealth Building Wednesday. There's wealth and then there's wealth. Check out our Wealth Building Wednesday spotlight next on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A recent rally. The former president on Saturday spoke at a rally in New Hampshire and claimed immigrants were poisoning the blood of our country. The remark was similar to language used by Adolf